Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me. I just want to thank Cornell University, Mixed, and especially Amanda, who I worked with, for setting this all up. It's my first time on campus, so I'm really excited to be here. I will first start with just a brief bio about myself and then about the work I do and about the upcoming documentary I'm working on about some of the patients that I've had the pleasure of meeting through the years. So I'll get started. So my story, I guess, started as a child. My identity was kind of shaped based on my mixed background. I'm born and raised in Los Angeles, California, which, and most of you guys know, is a pretty diverse place. My father is Greek, Italian, Armenian, Egyptian. My mom is Japanese American by way of Hawaii. And you know, growing up, I kind of always struggled to find myself. I'm the only child, so it was always kind of this game of where do I fit in? And you know, growing up in Los Angeles, in South LA, which is the Crenshaw area, which is mostly Latino and Black populations, you know, I struggled trying to fit in mostly in schools, but my home life, my neighborhood was pretty, I guess, diverse from what I was. So that's kind of my background. So in college, I kind of went on this quest for finding communities that I fit in, and I didn't really find that at my school. So I found online resources. There were groups at the time which don't exist anymore, but at the time they were pretty popular. And I started writing pieces that were about myself, and it's okay. And that's kind of where my mixed journey kind of began. So why I chose to talk about marrow and be so passionate about that, in 2007, my aunt passed away from lymphoma. Unfortunately, she didn't have the option of having a bone marrow match, but had she, you know, it would have been a big deal. So it was kind of serendipity that I happened to meet a mixed race patient in 2008, and I had no idea that being mixed race could, you know, matter in a cure. So I met Chrissy Kobata, and she's right here on the right. And at that time, she was around my age, in our 20s, and she looked relatively healthy. And you know, it just struck me because I'm like, well, this could be me. This could be a friend of mine. This could be anybody, really. And I just thought about my aunt in my back, you know, in the back of my head, and you know, I'm sure a lot of you guys, if you guys could raise your hand, how many of you have known somebody that's had cancer or it's affected your family or friends or anything? And it's mostly everybody, right? So if you could have a hand in someone's cure, I would hope that you probably would, right? If you could cure them, most people would say, yes, I would do anything to save that person's life. And so after meeting Chrissy and her family, I'm like, wow, you know, I didn't know that I could potentially save somebody's life. So that's kind of where that began. So I started volunteering for a group in Los Angeles called Asians for Miracle Marrow Matches, A3M. And their focus was the Asian community. They had a Latino recruiter at the time, and different minority groups that they were trying to raise the number of donors. But they didn't have a mixed race, I guess, recruiter at the time. There was no mixed race named recruiter. And most people would say, why do you need a mixed race recruiter? Well, as you guys know, the populations are changing in the US, in most of the world. We're the fastest growing demographic. So I just thought, these mixed groups that I've seen online, these mixed clubs that are popping up on college campuses or in different high schools, nobody's talking about this issue really. There have been a few movements behind different patients, but as soon as they got cured, or unfortunately if they passed away, these rallies for them kind of just died down with them. So there was no ongoing mixed race kind of group that was present at the time that I started. So I decided to kind of go on this mission. I created a Facebook group, and that's where it all began. So next. So just a little explanation. Many of you probably hear race is a social construct. Why is this having to do with anything biological? Does it matter? And a lot of people don't like the word race because it's, especially in the US, there's just so much that comes out of that word. So I choose the word ancestry, I choose the word heritage more because I think that just feels a little more comfortable for a lot of race scholars. But basically what you inherit from your parents really matters in your system. It's different than organ donation. It's different than any other donation. When you're transplanting somebody's immune system, it relies upon your HLA markers that are on your tissue. So your chromosome that you get from your mom and your dad are very distinct to who you are. So twins obviously are going to have the same genetic background. Siblings with the same two parents have about a 25% chance in matching you. So like me, I'm an only child. I most likely won't have anybody in my family that'll match me because I got half from my mom and half from my dad. And then my extended family are not combinations like me. So 75% of people that are looking for a bone marrow match have to go to the public. So that is why registries like Be the Match, like Mixed Marrow, like A3M exist, is to try to get the public to sign up and be a registered donor to save somebody's life, because just so many people have to go that route and they don't have them in their family. So these are the markers that, so you get one set of HLA from your dad and one from your mom. And you're basically trying to match these two strands on your chromosome against a donor. And there's, thousands or millions of possible. Yeah. So when you're looking for a match, say this is you in the middle, most of the time we see the trends happen between similar races. And if you don't match every single one, what happens then? You don't have a good match. You could have rejection. Your body can just reject the transplant. That happens in organ donation. But when it's your immune system, you pretty much don't have any shot if you have a pretty bad match. So you're trying to essentially find the exact same combination to get a 10 out of 10 match. 5 from your mom, 5 from your dad. So that's why they call it a 10 out of 10 match. So let's talk a little bit about mixing. There's the idea of first generational mixing, which is, one parent is one thing, one parent is another. That's what a lot of people want to talk about, I guess, because sometimes you might have ancestral mixing that you don't know about, that might have happened way back when. And so there's this kind of mixed person, and then there's also someone that's maybe doesn't know they're mixed. It happened in their background somewhere in their lineage, and maybe they themselves don't consider themselves mixed. But these people, like the African American community, is very mixed, and they have a hard time finding matches too, because they may identify as being Black American, but they have some very diverse background. There's very, a lot of people want to say everybody's mixed now, which is somewhat true, but for people that do have, what I've noticed in biracial people that have 2 different parents, your probability of finding a match, you just have more, I guess, chances of inheriting diverse genetics when you have 2 different parents from 2 different regions, or a person like this that had maybe multiple different mixing happening down the line, and they may not know why they don't find a match. This could be an African American person, it could be a Caucasian person that just didn't really know their family history. So, this is why this matching issue kind of has a problem, because secondly, the US registry or world registries are mostly Caucasian. In the US, it's about 70% Caucasian. So when you're a minority, when you're mixed race, your chances are very slim to find a public donor. So that is why we're trying to boost up those numbers of diverse donors. So this is the statistics of, so multiple race, we're 4% of the National Registry. That's all multiple races. That's Black, white, that's Asian white, that's Asian Latino. Every possible mixed race is in there. But then again, these are based on your own self-identification. So, people may not be exactly what they think they are. So these are loose numbers in that way, but this is pretty much what we base our ideas on, with what's made up of what the registry is made up of. So Caucasian, it went down a little bit. I'm thinking of old numbers, but now it's about 61%. We've kind of helped increase. A lot of these groups have tried to increase the minority donors. So those have kind of risen over the years. When I first started, it was, I think, at 2 or 3% mixed race. So now we're at 4, which is a big deal. So that's kind of good. But also more of our demographic are turning 18, so we're now eligible to be donors. In the past, most of our mixed people were below 18, so they couldn't register. So hopefully, as the years progress and our demographic rises, we're going to have more donors that are filling up these places and giving more equal opportunity for patients to find good matches. So Mixed Marrow was started in 2009. Like I said, I started a Facebook group, and that's kind of just, it was right when Facebook was kind of really picking up, and these fan pages or group pages were kind of starting to become popular. So that's what I did. I just started a group. I just thought, that's the easiest way I can share this information with people. So through that, I connected with a lot of college campuses. College groups started hosting drives. They invited me to come do a drive and talk. And luckily, through the power of social media, regular media, Time, NBC, CNN have somehow found and picked up on what we've been trying to do. So, and the power of the internet also reaches not just locally, but across the world. So, through that, we've connected with people all over the world that in their country, talking about mixed race is even really not talked about. Here it's talked about, but in other countries, they don't even utter it. There's no blend there. There's no, mixed groups that are happening. So they search online. So that's what we're kind of focused on, is the social media presence, because I found that is just the fastest, easiest way to connect. Now, luckily, we've been fiscally sponsored by a regional group, Multiracial Americans of Southern California, working in Southern California. So this has all been a volunteer kind of project of mine. And so now at least I could kind of get my feet going and do more, because I feel like, you're so limited in so many ways, just being online. And I wanted to do more face-to-face kind of stuff like this, where I could talk to people, register people in person. So thankfully, with our partnership, I've been able to do a lot more. So now next on to what I'm doing. My latest project is a film. Let me go over first I'll go over the transplant types, because I feel like a lot of people don't understand what a transplant is, what types there are, what it even affects. So first off, if you have a blood disease like leukemia, there's sickle cell, lupus, anemias. Sometimes if they've gone through other treatments, medications, radiation, chemo, bone marrow or stem cell is their last option for a cure. That means they've tapped out every other resource. They're not able to find a cure. So basically they're looking for their genetic twin somewhere in the public. And that is through these areas, either a bone marrow donation, through a peripheral blood stem cell donation, or cord blood donation. So today we have Be the Match here, and they register people to be the first two, either a bone marrow donor or a peripheral blood stem cell donor. And most of the time now, we've been doing the PBSC donation, which is through the arm. It's non-surgical. You're basically in and out. And then 25% of the time, we require the original transplant method, which is a bone marrow donation, which is the one everybody cringes about or kind of gets scared. But bone marrow donation, from my experience of seeing donors, is not as scary as most people initially think. It's done through your hip. That's kind of scary, right? You're under. You don't feel anything. You don't see anything during that time. And most people actually compare the soreness to slipping and falling, falling ice skating or roller skating, and just kind of being sore. You're not dying. You're not, like a lot of people think it's your spine. People think pieces of bone are removed. That's untrue. This is liquid marrow that comes from this area. Actually, PBSC, you are awake. It's done through your arm. It's like platelet donation. And then the last thing that's probably the most recent kind of advance that most people have not, have just now getting to hear about is cord blood donation. So you'll hear commercials where people say, do you want to bank your cord blood? Public cord blood donation is available. A lot of people don't know that. So if you're an expecting mother, you can have the option of donating your child's umbilical cord. 95% of umbilical cords are thrown away in medical waste. So that's perfectly good cells that could be saving people's lives, and it's worked. I've worked with plenty of patients that could not find a bone marrow match, could not find a stem cell match. So they actually found a cord blood, either partial match or full match, and they went ahead with that, and they're alive today because of something that could have been just in the trash. So a lot of hospitals are still working on getting programs started. There are, I would say, more hospitals that don't do it than do, but it's changing. We're training more people. There's more resources being given to cord blood donation. So that is something that's going to cure a lot of diseases. There's been, besides blood diseases like leukemia, there's diabetes, heart disease, other stem cell kind of things that they're doing from umbilical cord stem cells. So you'll see probably more of that in the news in the coming years. It hasn't fully replaced these other first two options because it's still so new that they do not have a grasp on like the long-term side effects yet. It's still in some hospitals considered a clinical trial still. So this is the future. This is my cousin right here. She donated her baby's umbilical cord. Quite a few friends of mine have done that. And, why not, right? You're going to throw it away. Why not just give it to somebody? So today I'm going to be talking about also my film with Jeff Shiva Stearns. He did a film called One Big Hoffa Family. I don't know if you guys are aware, but I think he did screen it here. It might have been with one of the Asian clubs on campus, but he's an animator and director from Canada. So again, via Facebook, I connected with him and kind of pitched this story. And I thought, the best way to get this out to people is for them to see these true life stories of people, for them to feel something toward a patient that needs help. By you just having a photo and just a blurb and a table, it does a lot because you're there, but you don't have the time to really say what you want to talk about like in length and show the emotion that comes from people that really have no options in life. This is the only cure for them. And, in 5 minutes of doing a bone marrow drive, you just don't have that time. So I felt like we needed to have something longer, something that we can distribute widely and make a big impact on society, and for them to know that people are dying like this every day because they just simply don't have a match that is possibly out there, and just the person just doesn't know the register. So we covered various stories of different patients and donors, and we tried to show different age groups, different regions of the country and in Canada. And we started filming in 2010. So you guys can see how long I've been working on this. So we're expecting, and we're actually done now. I'm going to be showing you some clips that haven't been shown before that include like some of the animation that we're also working on. And we actually used social media again and the power that it has to crowdsource. And so a lot of our funding was made possible by the public. So thanks to that, we're able to get our film out there. And then the future after the film, we're hoping to launch a website that lives on beyond the film. Like once that stops touring or if people don't want to buy it on DVD or whatever, there will be this permanent free resource for them. And we're gonna put clips on there and stuff that didn't make it in the film. We had about 200 hours worth of footage that we had to cut down into a documentary. So there's just tons of footage of medical professionals, of patients that just didn't make the final cut. So that will be our future there is on this website. So I'm going to show you guys a few clips, 2 clips of some of the patients that are shown in the film out in film festivals this year. And we hope that we inspire people to donate. So this is, some of the things you can do. People always say, like, what can I do? Even if you are afraid and you need to think about being a donor, if this isn't, something that you want to take lightly and just register today, I want you guys to do your homework on it. If you have any questions, the last thing we need is people to register and then back out. About 50% of people actually register because maybe their friends are doing it, or at the time they think, oh, okay, yeah, I'll just do this thing. And they really don't know what they're signing up for, and they end up backing out. And there's been patients that have actually been called and said, you have 5 potential matches. And Sarah over here, she spoke yesterday, she had a friend that actually had some potential matches that backed out. And for whatever reason, we don't really know, it's anonymous, so they could have been pregnant, they could have, not been, again, somebody maybe couldn't get a hold of them, they changed their phone number or something like that, but it's about a 50% turnover rate sometimes, especially in minority communities. Sometimes there's language barriers, sometimes there's cultural stigmas, sometimes parents influence you. If you signed up maybe as a college student and your parents kind of sway you out of it. So there's a lot of reasons why. So if you're going to register, we want people to be informed, we want them to be committed, because the worst thing would be for a patient to know they have all these potential matches and then one by one they find out that now I'm none. So there's other things you guys can do if donating or registering today is not something you want to do. You host a drive. Your club mixed at Cornell has done that. You guys connected with the local Be the Match recruiter and done that. So that's a big deal. A lot of college kids, you guys are busy. You guys are students. You guys are working on your studies, and you don't have time to maybe think about this more than just a passing thought, right? So you guys took that extra leap and did that. So that's amazing. You can volunteer. You guys have a local recruiter that maybe needs help at drives. You could stuff kits. You could do stuff like that. You could spread the word. Just put it on social media. You have no idea how many people you can reach that way. You may just say something to one person, that one person can share it, and maybe 10 people see it. And you don't know how many people could register and end up saving somebody's life. Maybe you're never called, but you don't know what impact you have on friends and family that maybe signed up, and their friends and family, and so on and so on. You could be saving lives just by putting it on Facebook. So something so small can go really, really far. We do a care package kind of program. So some of the patients that I know haven't found matches, they're in extended stays, especially children. We put together some care packages for them. This is a little boy actually in Busan, Korea. He ended up sadly passing away, but during the time he was in the hospital, we try to send them their favorite like toys or he liked Toy Story, so we sent him some like Toy Story PJs and stuff like that. That's Imani right there when she's in the hospital. And we sent her a goodie bag. So there's a lot of things you guys can do. Write a card. You guys could send it to us, and we'll forward it on to a patient. And lastly, of course, is to sign up as a donor and donate when you're called. And so these are just some of the faces of our lovely mixed donors that have come out for various conferences that I've been a part of. And Loving Day, that Ken is the founder of over here in New York City. He recent event, and we have had donors that have come out there, and hopefully today we'll have some. And I always say, even if I just get one, it makes the whole trip worth it, because that one person could be somebody's life-saving donor. So you guys all have the power within you to do something huge. And if you take that, chance to register and think about that, you could be literally saving somebody's life that would have no other hope. So thank you guys for your time. If you guys have any questions, I'm happy to answer any of them. I don't know how good we are on time. Yeah, we have a little bit of time before Alex is going to come on. If you want to get registered, take a bathroom break, so we can come back in about 10 minutes. Yeah. Thank you, Athena. Yeah. Yeah, we're actually working on oh, and that's also her. She donated, she registered she had, I did see it on her, she allowed me to do drive all around the US. And so texting me over to there's like in the area. And so I had her mom had cancer.
If anyone wants to get registered, we have the Be the Match representative up here. Yeah, I'm registered. Yeah, it was a huge success. Like they were only that's amazing. So this movie.
Yeah, this is gonna be great. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll show this.
No, we're actually, we're hoping to get into actually the way it works. Well, just the other one. They kind of run the whole process. Yeah, and then there's other. He's like, you're on this. I'm like, I'm just yeah, I mean, for patients in our that's fine.
No, sorry. No, not a priority. Oh, was it emotional roller coaster?
Yeah, I mean, you guys.
No, don't rush.
I just like
I'd love to take a picture of you guys.
Just like
Yeah.
That's cool. So this.
Yeah. I was like this eating a donut, and I like. I know.
Oh yeah. That thing live right now. You want to turn that off? Oh, the mic. Yeah. Just need to turn it back on. Yeah, the battery. So like.
But people graduate, it just changes, and then there be loans, there's like no club, right? So that's what we're working on.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you got time. Yeah, so we were like thinking about that.
Yeah, so I study a lot of my
We really tried to
Yeah,
it's just gonna be that undergrad.
That's a scientific word. Yeah. Sure, no, it's very cool. Yeah, no, it's very interesting. I really got
I wasn't in there. I forgot.
Yeah.
But then I always forget when I screen it. I screen it on the, I know, and that happened. What's a dish? I was like, I forget that. I know when I don't have to. Yeah, I mean, it will.
This year.
So you guys. So
I'm sorry, I missed it.
Like, and I was like, listen, I heard because it was very cold last night. Someone said it. Yes, it was. And like, I was so like, and I was like, why did she put that in the like way? I have seen stuff, but it wasn't like that. That's really, like I've seen melted snow like out in the natural. Yeah, and not like actual snow block. There's like a beach. Oh really? What on the roof? Yeah. Enjoy it though. I wish I would. It's beautiful, but I wish I would have had that independence. And I'm only telling you. And then the good weather change. But you, in hindsight, you'll appreciate Yeah, like it's a nice city. You ever but it was such great stuff. I didn't have a study. Can I take a picture of you guys? Yeah. I can take one of you. I'm gonna take it. You guys are just. I'm going to. Oh, yeah.
Oops, sorry.
Yeah. So are you ready to go? Because
Yes.
we don't want to turn on that camera so much because you only have one microphone, so I'll turn on the ready to go.
Okay, I can turn it on. We're just gonna
No,
have
it's okay. I can do it.
Annika introduce you.
Oh, okay. Where's the best place to put this? Here? Yeah.
This is the best I have for the lights.
That's weird.
Or live stream, yeah. I can probably turn it off if it's a little distracting.
I might kind of like spike in the camera a little bit.
There we go.
so I should put this through, right? So it looks very Hollywood here. Wait, that's what I'm saying, right? Okay, so it's good enough. Okay.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so hi everybody. Next we have Mr. Alex Barnett. He is a comedian and quote-unquote multiracial family man. As a white Jewish husband of a black woman who also converted to Judaism, I heard, and the father of a biracial son. Mr. Barnett focuses on the challenges that multiracial families face on the daily. And although he's for big shot places, I read like the Katie Couric Show, the Wall Street Journal, HuffPost, NBC's EBB Live, and VH1, and is producer of the Jewish Fathers Comedy Tour, and many regular shows at New York City's Gotham Comedy Club. He also contributes writing to many other projects. He ultimately produces a lot of funny stuff that we, as mixed kids, can ultimately connect with on a very personal level, and the challenges we face on a daily basis. So, without further ado, here is Mr. Alex Barnett.
All right. Give it up for Hanukkah, everybody. Come on. I say that before every comedy show, you got to give it up for the host. So give it up for Hanukkah again. She really did a job. First of all, I want to thank everybody for coming out this morning for this presentation. I realize you guys are college, and this is still, early. It's early for me, and I'm a lot older than you guys, so I realize how early it is. So thank you very much for coming out. And I know some of you traveled from other schools, so this is some heads nodding. Right. Very cool. We're just out of curiosity, which school are you guys from? Dartmouth, okay. Skiing school, very good. And Swarthmore, very good. Philadelphia, mainline, rich kids over there. Okay. Anybody else who traveled? Tufts, go Jumbos. All right. Anybody else who traveled a little bit? No. Okay. Well, you're a professional. You don't count. Okay. Well, thank you again for coming out. I really do appreciate it. And I guess the Swarthmoreans, you guys win the prize for the furthest travels, although it's Dartmouth. It's actually further away. Yeah. Okay. Once it gets above New York City, I'm like, I don't know where the hell it is. So, thank you for coming out. Taking time out for your busy ski schedule. I am, as Annika told you, a white man, as you can plainly see, and not mixed or multiracial, depending on your preferred vernacular. But I am part of a multiracial family. I'm the white Jewish husband of a black woman who and father of a 4-year-old biracial son. And we're part of the growing number of multiracial families, like Kim and Kanye, and North and Saint, of course. My wife and I, by the way, were well into our 40s when our son was born. And by well into, I mean that when he graduates from high school, we won't be collecting Social Security, but we'll definitely be telling people that 60s and 30s. So I want you guys to put yourselves in the heads of your parents, as well as your own heads. because I realize most of you here do not have children, since you're basically still children yourselves. But think about what it's like to be you, but also your parents, because I'm basically your parents. So when we're done here, do your homework. Now, my wife and I, by the way, both have graduate degrees, and yet somehow we got left behind financially, which you guys may appreciate. Like, we're not really sure how it happened. All we know is that we looked down to work in our 20s, and when we looked up in our 40s, the rules had changed, the economy had tanked, and our desk had been moved to the back of the line. So, in sum, we're a middle-aged interracial couple, parents to a toddler, and struggling to make ends meet. In other words, we're hashtag cool, tired, broke. So like thematically, we are an interracial couple, but as some of you may be familiar with, that's interracial, not interspecies, right? Think of us as a tail or a ridged forehead. My wife is black, she's not a Klingon, right? I'm white, but I'm not Casper, right? The only thing I haunt are the dim recesses of my own neurotic mind. But even in today's era, people get weird about interracial couples. Like, I have buddies, white guys, know, dude, what's the black woman? I don't know, because black guys don't do it for me. Meantime, I have buddies whose wives no one can stand, and no one ever says, hey, what's with the chick no one likes? Like, my wife has black skin, big deal. Your wife has a black heart. But people still can't seem to get their arms around it. Like, how is this black woman, this white guy, has this complicated backstory? Like, she's an R&B singer, and I'm her agent. Or we've actually had people come up to us and say, oh, you're rebelling against your parents. That's why you're together. Rebelling against my parents. I waited until I was 44 years old to get married. That was the rebellion. I won, right? If I want to rebel against my parents now, I have to quit my job, move back in with them, and make them support me for the rest of my life. Which actually isn't a bad idea. Or I've had guys come up to me and say, oh, you guys are together because you find each other exotic. My wife is from Detroit, not Narnia, okay? And I'm a neurotic Jewish New Yorker. Like, I'm only exotic if you've never seen Seinfeld. Or I actually had a guy come up to me after a show I did and say, oh, you guys have jungle fever. Which some of you may have heard, right? Which I resent, because it suggests that black people and white people can't be in a relationship together. And that's what weird sexual fetish. And I looked at him and was like, dude, we're married. Like, there's nothing sexual about that. Do you understand? We're a 4-year-old. Okay, we don't even have sex in our dreams anymore. My sex dreams are me sleeping, eating, and taking a nap. You guys laugh at that. You're empathizing with your parents. I see. That's good. That's good. Point is, I didn't marry my wife for one of these spectacular reasons. I married her because I love her. Because for years of dating, it was time. And by time, I mean she was 7 months pregnant. And I woke up one day and I thought, like, just grow up already, be a man. Like, if you're not ready now, when will you? When you're 50, when you're 60, when the diapers you're buying are for yourself? No, it was finally time, after starring in the role of I Can Drive with Peter Pan, to move on to the next phase of my life. So we got married, had a kid, and now I'm the white dad of an African-American son. And just before all that happened, I got my wife together. Trick, right? So for those of you who don't know about conversion, conversion means change, right? And that's what relationships are all about. Some of you may not have had long-term relationships. I'm telling you right now, you're going to change. Or the other person's going to die trying, all right? So that's what it's all about. And it's true, because they say during marriage, women change men. And it's right. My wife changed me from a guy who had sex to a guy who doesn't. But as much as she's changed me, I changed her more. I got her to change religions. She gave up Jesus for me. Huge. Although, maybe not that much. I mean, she gave up one bearded Jewish mama's boy for another. No, it is huge. It is huge. Why did I get her to do it? Simple. Years ago, before you guys were born, I was engaged to a non-Jewish woman. And I realized that if they had kids, they wouldn't be Jewish. Because the rule is you're only Jewish if your mother is. Which is a bad rule if you ask me, because we need all the help we can get. But even if you don't like the rule, there's the reality. Okay? If I marry a non-Jewish woman, I tell my kids that to be Jewish, they got to go to the temple on Saturday, watch Christmas from the sidelines, and suffer anti-Semitism, or right, they can sleep in on Saturday, get presents from Santa, and eat bacon whenever they want. What do you think is going to happen? Exactly. So having discovered this, I realized that I would be giving Hitler a posthumous victory. Could there be anything worse? I mean, I don't know if there's any Jewish people here. Don't raise your hands because they could change their minds. And so that's the thing. A little World War II humor for you. Here's the thing. But my job, my main job as a Jewish man, is just to take my yarmulke and pass it to the next generation. And here I was about to fail my main task. Like I should have just grown one of those little mustaches and walked around like this all the time. So I called off the engagement. And I swore I would never date another non-Jewish woman. And I stuck with that for a long time. Okay? Long enough to have relationships with Jewish women that ended, which made me realize that maybe my issue wasn't a religion thing so much as it was a not wanting to get married. And you'll ask me why. I'll tell you why. Because I think being single seemed like it was about infinite possibilities and fun, and marriage wasn't. So I realized I could date non-Jewish women. I mean, if I wasn't going to get married, why not? It wasn't going to help Hitler, and it wasn't going to hurt anybody. So long as I didn't make promises, I didn't intend to. The only problem is, it's hard to date people without developing feelings. And if you're really unlucky, you fall in love with them. Right? And then what the hell do? You ask them to convert. Well, okay, first of all, maybe you don't start the hard ask. But eventually the question in any relationship becomes, where's this going? Right? Now, my wife and I, we were a little older, and we'd both been through the dating bill, and neither of us was in sort of a hurry to tie the knot. But I'm not an idiot. I knew she was thinking about it. I mean, even if she was sort of acting cool, I knew it was there. But I was wary of moving to the next level. So I came up with a workaround, a really smart one too. I thought, we'll just have kids, okay? Because marriage and kids seem like a quick trip to death. Right? But just having kids seem very free-spirited and fresh. But then I realized even if we just had kids, I still wanted them to be Jewish. And that was the rub. Right? I knew we were going to have the talk. And I knew that would be a tough conversation. So I thought long and hard about how to do it just right. We would go for a walk in the park, having a romantic dinner, maybe champagne on the rooftop, overlooking the city, and then I wound up asking her over the phone. I know. There's no, look, she went away on vacation, and she called me, and I guess because I'd been thinking about it, and because I'd been out drinking with a buddy of mine, I just blurted it out. I was like, so, how's the trip? Good. By the way, if you have kids, I need you to convert. And she was like, okay. Excuse me? Like, I didn't think she'd say, well, fuck yourself, but I thought it'd be a much bigger deal. Right? Like, I didn't think she'd say, oh, I like bagels, that's cool. But it turns out my wife had been considering this on her own. She was on her own spiritual and religious journey, and she'd been Passover at my mother's house. I really loved it. Passover, for those of you who aren't Jewish, is a really good holiday to showcase Judaism, because it's all about redemption and freedom. Certainly themes that an African American can appreciate. Plus, she and my mother get along really well together. They're like Thelma and Louise, only without the crime, the car, and the adventure. So she decided to convert. So there were the meetings with the rabbi. There was the mikveh, which is the ritual dunking. There was the waving of the magic wand. That's and then, ta-da, she was Jewish. Which meant that I now owed her big time. And I knew what she wanted. To get married, right? Well, the problem was, even though her conversion removed a major obstacle for me, it wasn't the only one. As I mentioned, if you were listening, I had been in long-term relationships. I knew about that numbing sameness that sets in when both people stop making an effort. I knew about all the issues that worm their way into the relationship, like termites boring their way into wood, like wondering if the other person's going to stop making noise when they eat or breathe. So we didn't get married. And to my wife's great credit, she was pretty cool about that. On the other hand, we weren't committed to one another, so we moved in together. And then when she got pregnant with our son, I thought, okay, we should be married. Like, we're going to be living under the same roof, raising a child together. Why not make things official? Right? There are people, our family is a wonderful thing. There are people in this world who would kill to have one. Now I have one of my own. I should embrace it. Right? If I don't, I'm going to spend the rest of my life walking around explaining why we all have different last names and why we should each be on the other one's health insurance. So we got married, and I should say I asked her to marry me, and it was the right, although a belated decision. You know, my wife is awesome. In case you ever meet her, she is awesome. Although I know sometimes I look at her and I can tell she's thinking, I gave up Christmas for this. So religion isn't an issue for our family, and I don't know if it is for any of you. But you know what it is? Listen to me carefully, because you're about to graduate and go into the world. Money, right? Kids are expensive, so they don't tell you that part. And I thought my wife and I were middle class. Turns out, middle class means poor with a credit card. Right? It means we pay taxes because poor people can't and rich people won't. It means every day I wake up and I think, how did my parents do this? Were they money launderers? Were they counterfeiters? Is that why I wasn't allowed in my dad's den? Everything. My wife and I are not middle class. I mean, maybe we would be in Kansas or Bangladesh, but in New York City, we are one piece of bad luck away from living on the street. And I know that sounds like an exaggeration, but listen, when our son was 5 months old, we put him into daycare. And at the time, rent, health insurance, and daycare cost exactly the same. Yeah, exactly. He's got it. He knows what I'm talking about, right? Now, here's the thing. No monthly expense should be even close to rent. We have two that work. Only problem is I can't live in my health insurance policy. Not even if it's printed on that heavy bond paper and I roll it up into a teepee, okay? And I can't live in daycare. I mean, I guess I could if my life were a Judd Apatow movie and my friends burned down my apartment in a hilarious bong accident. But I don't live in that movie. I live in my life, which is a lot less funny, by the way, and much lower grossing. Besides, the daycare closes at 6 o'clock every day. And the furniture and the toilets are designed for people 3 feet tall and weigh 40 pounds. It wasn't always like this. You know, my wife and I used to have better paying jobs. And we weren't parents. We actually were doing so well, we used to pay our bills by automatic deduction from our bank accounts. You know, which was really cocky because it was like saying, hey, just take what you want, we got plenty more. But we don't have that kind of money anymore. We have the other kind. The kind you guys may be familiar with. We take shoe boxes full of change in the bank every month, which is really embarrassing. It's like admitting we're so broke, we literally have to count our pennies. I've done this so many times, by the way, that I can now tell you by weight what I can afford. Yeah, 18 pounds is Con Ed, 25 pounds is the phone, 30 pounds is the cable. I don't know what rent weighs, but I know I can't lift it. I'd like to tell you that we're living check to check, but in order to do that, we have to get bigger checks. We sort of live life like economic Wile E. Coyote. You know, we sort of go along till we're suspended in midair over the canyon, and then someone hands us an anvil marked rent, health insurance, and daycare, and gravity takes over. It's upsetting because, and you guys can appreciate this as you're looking ahead to your careers, we're supposed to be doing better than the generations before us, right? We're doing worse. And we have the internet, right? A tool that can transmit money at the push of a button. Well, what good is that if you're broke, right? I mean, the point is, the American dream is an illusion. Right? It used to be a fantasy about how much better things were going to be in the future. Now, it's a memory of how things used to be better in the past. Right? You want the American dream now? You got to find a Chinese guy who's sleeping and breaking his dream like in the movie Inception. And I'm pissed. Man, you guys, I'm a little bit older than you guys. When I was a kid, people told me, Alex, work hard and play by the rules, and you'll realize the 1950s American dream. With a good job, nice house, beautiful wife and kids, come home at 5 every day, have a martini, play with the dog, enjoy 4 weeks paid vacation. Well, I got the wife and the kid, and I am thankful for both. But the other stuff, well, as you may know, it turns out that the new American dream has 2 versions. There's the premium version for rich people, and there's the free version for everybody else, right? Except the free version doesn't come with the extras, like the house and the job and the benefits. All it comes with is the guarantee that the rest of the world will hate being an American. That's too fun. I better stop now when I'm ahead. 50 years ago, my wife and I would have no problem making it. As an interracial couple, right, we couldn't have gotten married in 17 states, but we would have been able to afford shit. Now we can't afford a house, a car, or even a vacation. And college guys, my kid's not even in kindergarten yet, and I know right now we will never be able to afford to send him. About the best we're gonna be able to do is hire a forger to scratch my name off his diploma, his name up there. It's terrible. So money is a big problem for us. It's a big problem for us. On the other hand, you know, we're making ends meet. You know, we're getting by. I'm not really sure how. I know that every month there's some expense we don't see coming. You know, like some computer stuff because Apple wires their stuff to die so we can buy their newest gizmo, right? Or a tutor for our son because we have to make sure he picks his boogers in the 98th percentile. Or a trip to the doctor who tells us you have to reduce your stress, even as his office manager hands me a bill I can't afford to pay. Or even if you see the expense coming, like you can't avoid it, like visiting our parents. That's one you guys may be familiar with. Like, don't get me wrong, I love my parents. And for that matter, my in-laws. But I would like to be able to visit them without having to pay $1,000 to get there. Especially because every time we visit our parents and in-laws, they tell us how when they're our age, everything costs a nickel. And don't get me started on taxes. Like, look, I'm a liberal. I don't mind telling you guys that. I believe in government. But the fact that Bill Gates and I are in the same tax bracket is like enough to make me a Republican. Right? Except that I believe in science. A friend of ours tried to make me feel better by saying, oh, I know people way worse off than you. I'm like, son, other people's misery doesn't help me, right? If I get my hand cut off, the fact that someone else got their feet cut off doesn't make my missing hand feel any better. But as I said, we are getting by. You know, I mean, I know I'm eating a lot more peanut butter and jelly, and our vacations now consist of walks in Central Park. And I am really close to answering the question, what is a sock? Not a sock, but a collection of holes held together by thread. But we do have food, clothing, and shelter. Still, I wouldn't mind having a bit more. That's not to say I want to get rid of my son, you know, but maybe I could rent him out. No, seriously, because he is cute and biracial, right? So I'm sure some rich white liberal would like to carry him around for an afternoon to prove a point. Truthfully, I like being a dad. I love it, actually. I love it. It's a chance to play the same game every day. And that game is, what do I love doing that I'm not going to get to do today? But I love it. We were really looking forward to being parents. And so when my wife got pregnant, we were really excited. And then, sadly, we weren't. Because before she got pregnant with our son, she had 2 miscarriages. Okay, and you know, 1 minute we're like, oh, we're totally excited, dreaming of soccer games, and school recitals, and someone calling us mommy and daddy, and then it's gone. And what was really horrible was how helpless we felt. Like, because miscarriages happen all the time, and no one can tell you why. Like, unless the woman is like smoking, drinking, and working at a nuclear power plant, no one knows why. So when she got pregnant the 3rd time, I was really nervous because anything can mess up the pregnancy. Anything. Like, and then you live in New York City, the number of things escalates. Like every time you leave your apartment, you're exposing yourself to 10 million crazy people. And like, God help anybody who gets in their way, right? Between the deranged cab drivers and the crazy pedestrians and the subway riders like jockeying for position as if standing near the door conveys an uptick in social status. It was way too scary to think about. Like, it got to the point where when she was pregnant, I wanted to wrap her in bubble wrap and furniture blankets before she left the apartment. But this time, nothing did go wrong. And for that, I take a lot of credit. Okay? No, seriously, I mean, like, oh, okay, you know, my wife, she ate well, she exercised, and, you know, whatever, carried the baby for 9 months. But I did the heavy lifting, all right? No, listen, I walked around acting as if nothing was going on. In fact, I told her I wouldn't believe it was true until the kid graduated from college. On top of that, I acted like I was suffering because that is what God wants. He wants us Jewish people to have a little thing of suffering at all times so that you'll stay humble and remember the good stuff, right? It's true. That's why when God gave us the Torah, he made sure it was so fucking heavy. You can't run away from anti-Semites while you're carrying it. So because of my efforts, God rewarded us with a son who was wonderful 99% of the time. And I say that because God is watching. And if I said our son was perfect, God would immediately do something so horrible I can't even think about it. So just to be clear, our son is fantastic, but there's definitely things about him. And I just want God to understand. And if it took having to have 2 miscarriages in order to have our son, then I guess that was the price we had to pay. But miscarriages suck. All right. So once pregnancy was in the clear, my wife was very excited, started nesting. Everyone here, the ladies here, I know you're a bit young, you probably haven't had kids yet, or you're not even thinking about it yet, but let me assure you that when women get pregnant, this is what they do. It is biological. They nest. They're just like, they should just like gather straw and put it in the apartment. So my wife is running around the apartment. You know, where's the baby's room? Where's the baby's room? Where's the baby's room? And I'm like, do you see the size of our apartment? What the hell are you talking about? Like, if we're lucky, the kid will be a wizard and spend all year at Hogwarts. Right? By the way, why does the baby get a room? The baby is this big. Like, I'm not much bigger, but I pay rent. Right? But I knew that even if you don't get the baby a room, you got to put him somewhere. Right? You got to get him a crib. You know what these things cost? Considering the price tag, they're not come tricked out with gadgets like a James Bond car. Except, by the way, MI6 didn't get that memo. Right? A crib is just a crib. It's just 4 sides, a floor, and no ceiling. It's a sukkah for babies. Oh, there is one Jewish person there that got that. Very good. That was a test to see who's Jewish. You all failed. All right. And the thing is, it's like, is it really necessary? Right? Is it really necessary? Like, why can't we just do what the immigrants in the Lower East Side used to do? Just like clean out the dresser drawer and put the kid in there. Right? By the way, it's okay to think that. It's not okay to say that out loud. I mentioned the drawer scheme to my wife, and let's just say it was good. I was more than arms length away. So we go crib shop, okay? Getting an education here, being parents. Remember, you got to think like the parents here. This is what they did for you when you were little snot-nosed weasels running around the apartment. Go crib shopping. I have no idea what to look for, other than it should be cheap and not a death trap. I quickly found one that met those criteria, and it was like the old school kind that had like the slats like this. And my wife's like, no, looks like a cage. Like, isn't that the point? But then I thought, like, maybe she's right. Maybe I, a white guy, shouldn't keep my half-black child in a cage. So we go shopping for another girl. We find one we both want. Of course, I never realized that we'd have to assemble this thing ourselves. Like, I don't know who I thought would. Actually, to be honest, I know I didn't think about it. Like, it wasn't from IKEA. It's the idea that we'd have to build this thing that would cross my mind. I just figured it would show up at the apartment, like, all ready to go. But that's not what happened. What happened was it came in a big, heavy, awkwardly shaped box that the UPS guy very generously deposited outside the front door of our building so that I could have the privilege of schlepping it up the stairs myself. Then I opened the box to find out that we had to build the thing from scratch. Right? Like, the only way the crib company could have done less is if they mailed us a bunch of 2x4s with a note saying, good luck. So who built the thing? I know you guys are asking yourself. Well, my wife started to, because she's very handy, and because I'm a Jewish guy who did well on the SATs. But then I realized, I'm the guy. I realized I have to get involved. I didn't want to be involved. I would have been perfectly happy if she did the whole thing. But I kept envisioning these conversations like later in my son's life. So, Dad, let me get this straight. Mom, who was pregnant at the time, built the crib while you watched the Mets game. So I got involved. And I almost managed to do the whole thing myself. And then the next day, literally the very next day, my friend gave us a fully assembled bassinet, which is French for crib. Yeah. So now in our Lego block sized apartment, in the living room, there's a crib. In the bedroom, there's a crib, right? Kid wasn't even born yet, hadn't worked a day in his life, already had 2 houses, right? All he needed was an upside down foreclosed mortgage and he would have been just like everybody else. By the way, fast forward, my son is now 4.5 years old. He has never used this thing, literally. We have laundry in this thing. Laundry and stuffed animals. He has never used it. In fact, he's old enough now that we took the sides off of it and sort of turned it into a bed. Doesn't matter. He still sleeps in our bed, right? And I know that by the time he's ready to use it, he'll be too big for it, and we'll have to get him something else, at which point I'm going to inform my wife that I'm going to use it. Because we're going to get our money's worth out of the damn thing, even if I have to learn yoga in order to get in and out of bed every day. So anyway, finally it was time for my wife to give birth to this biracial child who's been awaiting now for a very long time. And look, I'm a comedian, but it wasn't like a sitcom, just so you know. It's not like that at all. Like it was, like her water didn't break in an elevator. I didn't panic and head to the hospital without her. Like even though we're an interracial couple, there wasn't like some guess who's coming to dinner situation with white people running around saying for shizzle, right? It was all really mundane. Like champagne, you got a cab, go to the hospital, she goes to maternity. What happened next was a little sitcom, though, because we have the screw the little guy insurance policy with the ginormous deductible. So first thing I had to do was go to the accounting office and cut them a $4,000 check. After which I had a sitcom-worthy panic attack. The only thing missing was me like hyperventilating into a giant paper bag and the cast of I Love Lucy coming up with a harebrained scheme to get my money back. So again, I go to be with my wife and we sit there all day because she's not dilated, which is important because the kid can't come out under the usual circumstances. If you have biological parts, you know what I'm talking about. Right? Kid's this big, you know, the birth canal is generally pretty small. And I won't get more graphic than that. Meanwhile, in the next bed over, there's a woman, like an Orthodox Jewish woman with like her 9th child. Right? Like it was unbelievable. They wheeled her in. She talked on the phone for 20 minutes. They wheeled her out. I don't think she felt the kid being born. I swear to God. Like I think he's just been flying out like a kid off a playground slide. Meantime, my wife, adhering to our natural childbirth plan, was lying in bed and started to turn very pale, which was a pretty neat trick considering she's black. And finally, after about 10 or 11 hours of agony, she turns to me and she says, I think I have to get the drugs. What do you think? And I'll be honest with you, most of what I was thinking was like, I'm really glad I don't have to do that part. Right? But what can I say? She's in excruciating pain. So I tell her to get the drugs, save some for me. And let me tell you something, an epidural, if you ever have a chance, definitely do that. Oh yeah, like say no to drugs, but say yes to epidural. No, I'm serious because it is a wonderful thing. I mean, my wife was like her old self again. Actually, she was better than her old self. Actually, she was so good, I'm thinking, like, I gotta put some of this stuff in her coffee every morning. The thing is, though, once you take the epidural, in case you guys are thinking ahead at all, you can just like take your birth plan and like toss it out the window. Because the drugs slow things down. So now it became a question of whether my wife, who was exhausted and hungry and numb below the waist, could manage to push the kid out before the doctors got tired of postponing their golf game. I wheeled her into the OR and cut her open like a fish, which they like to do, by the way. Fortunately for us, we had a doctor who was really committed to helping us have a natural childbirth. And by natural, of course, I mean, you know, in a hospital with a team of doctors and a woman with enough drugs in her system to open a pharmacy, right? And committed to helping. I mean, that this doctor, very petite Asian woman, couldn't have weighed more than about 80 pounds, pulled my wife's vagina open wide enough to pull the 6-lane highway. I swear to God. Like she's just pulling and pulling like this. And I'm like, what do you think is in there? Right? And finally, when she like stretched the boundaries of the word elastic, right? Out comes our son. Now, what they tell you is that when the kid is born, he looks just like the father, and that this is an evolutionary thing. I'm like, why? So the idiot dad won't eat the kid? The kid looks like the father? Are you kidding me? Like I've seen newborns, including my own now. They don't look anything like the father, or the mother, or anyone else for that matter. except for like Benjamin Button, or one of those cats with no hair, or like a mini Don Rickles in a diaper. Like, listen, let me tell you, like, I thought our son looked awesome, but he didn't look anything like me. He sort of looked like a miniaturized, pink-skinned, squash-faced version of my father-in-law, who, by the way, is a really good-looking dude. As a 6-foot-tall black man, right? But as a 21-inch long, splotchy-skinned alien, not really, okay? Still, it was the best moment of my life, by far. I mean, I know that's a cliche, but it's totally true. Not least of which because of the obstacles we'd overcome, including that $4,000 I paid that hospital. But, you know, we had been bent and not broken, and now our family included a third person, right? A weird-looking, helpless, financial sinkhole of a person, but a person nonetheless. Of course, just to prove that God won't tolerate joy without suffering, minutes later, doctors come to our room, and they say they got to take him to the NICU because he's having trouble breathing. Now, I got to tell you something. After 2 miscarriages, 9 months of pregnancy, delivery that lasted the better part of the full day, the notion that something wasn't copacetic was not news I took well. I think my response was something like, what the fuck, right? So as I tried to calm down, the doctors again explained that he was having trouble breathing, and they were going to take him to the NICU, and that I should wait in my wife's room while they did their observation. To which I responded, hey, why don't you observe this, right? So I tried to calm down. They again suggested I wait in my wife's room, and I suggested in response, very politely, that they take their suggestions and put them in the suggestion box, or their rear ends, whichever was more convenient. Right? So off we go to the NICU, the doctors with their suggestions, and me like freaking out. And as we got closer to the NICU, they told me to wait outside, because apparently in hospitals, you have to fill out the same forms over and over again. And you also tell people to go fuck themselves multiple times before they get the message. So they let me in, right? And I proceeded to hover over everything and make a colossal pain in the ass out of myself. To their credit, the doctors were very cool, though I'm sure I seemed like a crazy person, especially when I explained that I wasn't really crazy. So it turns out that nothing was right. He had swallowed some meconium during the birth process. By the way, meconium is a fancy name for fetus poop. Who knew that fetuses poop? But they do. And apparently during the whole getting born thing, sometimes they swallow some of that stuff, which is really gross. On the other hand, it meant that he was okay, or as okay as you could be after you swallow your own poop. So with that resolved, I said, well, let's go back to my wife's room. And they're like, no, we have to keep him overnight for observation. And this time I was the one with the suggestions, most of which ended with me pointing and saying, I don't think I won't. Right? So conferences were held, phone calls were made, threatening gestures were made, mostly by me. And within an hour, our son was back with his mother where he belonged. Proving, right, I stress this for you guys, yet again, that you catch more flies with honey than with vinegar, but if you really want to get what you want, act nuts and a little bit threatening. So we get to my wife's room. I chose like a lot of new aging neurotic dads to stay overnight on the maternity ward because I didn't want to miss those precious early moments in my son's life. And also because after the whole NICU episode, I didn't trust the motherfuckers. So I squashed myself into a chair, smaller than that one, right by my wife's bed. And I didn't need her sleep for 2 days. And by the end of the second day, I was like exhausted, but wired from caffeine and from excitement. And as I sat there in the pre-dawn hours that second day, I thought, I have coffee breath, I haven't slept for 48 hours, and I am watching someone who doesn't know he's being watched, right? I'm either a new dad or a cop on a stakeout, which was actually a pretty creepy thought, considering that I'm white and my son's an African-American. So now we were back to race. This is why you guys are here. You're wondering, why are you telling me about pregnancy? Back to race. Our family is a multiracial family, like many of yours. And, as you guys know, you think you get something for that, right? Integration of the races, Martin Luther King's dream. And of course we know, you don't, right? I mean, every so often you get a head knock in another multiracial family. But mostly what you get is just some old-fashioned racism, right? Like even today, in the 21st century, when like political correctness is at such a level, you can't even call someone ugly. You have to call them appearance challenged. Okay? There's still racism. And the reason you know this, I'll tell you guys, the reason you know this is, just read the news once in a while. Or, alternatively, put 10 white people in a room together and watch as 9 of them will look around and lower their voice when they say, kind of like the way people do it when they say things like cancer or death, which makes you understand how some white people feel about black people. And the thing about racism is, you're never prepared for it, right? Racists don't send Evites. Al Sharpton doesn't send text alerts. It's like being mugged, except the difference is with racism, the mugger doesn't take your wallet. He takes your dignity and your self-esteem. So the other thing about racism is that, and again, I'll have to tell you guys, I'm preaching to the choir here, it's embedded in our culture. Like, look at the movies. Like the movie Frozen. Now, before you jump on me, great movie. I love it. Love the song. I've watched it a million times. But it's another Disney movie where characters of color are underrepresented. And by underrepresented, I mean none. Like not even a person with a tan. Right? So I got upset and I wrote an article for a parenting magazine. And a woman wrote in the comments, well, that would be historically accurate. Historically accurate? If the movie's supposed to be so accurate, why are the Scandinavians walking around speaking English? Historically accurate. The movie has rock trolls, a talking snowman, and a main character shoots ice bolts out of her ass. When in human history did that occur? Right? The point is, it's a kid's film. It's not a documentary. If they put a dreadlock ice skater in the movie, they're not going to lose the award for best film from the Danish Historical Society. And a buddy of mine, a white guy, said, well, why are you so upset? Like, I'm going to tell you why I'm upset, okay? I'll tell you why I'm upset. Because I want my son to be able to see people who look like himself and his family when he watches TV and not have to watch crime shows and basketball and do it. Often people applaud at that line, but that's okay. You didn't. That's fine. It's all right. Now, the thing about racism, too, and again, I have to tell you guys, is that there's a spectrum, right? No one's burned a cross on my lawn, partly because I live on a third floor walk-up. But I could do a PowerPoint that would make most HR directors fire people based on stuff that's been said to us. For example, my wife is dark, huge afro. Right? I'm less dark, no afro. And our son is sort of in the middle between dark and light, kind of gray. People always come up to us and say, what race is he? I'm like, I don't know. Master race? Because the Germans aren't using the title anymore. It's such a silly question. You're looking right at us. There's only 3 choices. Chocolate, vanilla, cafe au lait. That's it. And it's offensive, really, because people would never ask this in any other context. They never go to a couple where one's fat and one's thin and be like, what's it going to be? Regular, chubby, or diabetes? By the way, what difference does it make what race he is? Like you're trying to figure out whether you can go in your country club through the front or the back, right? Yeah, well, provocative too. Okay. Or people, they don't necessarily say stuff, but they make assumptions that then lead them to say stuff. Like they'll see my wife when she's by herself with our son, and he is very light, and they'll say, "Is he yours?" Because they think she's the nanny. Yeah, which is very offensive, obviously. Although, very flattering, they think I can afford a nanny. But it's offensive because it would never happen to a white woman. Like a blonde Victoria's Secret model could be pushing a stroller with a kid who looked like Notorious B.I.G. And no one would say, "Is he yours?" But my wife, she's got to be the maid from Gone with the Wind, right? She should just tie a scarf around her head and walk around saying, "Lord Almighty, Miss Scarlet, Atlanta done burn it down." So my wife got upset. She's like, "What do I do?" I'm like, "Okay, I'll tell you what you do. Next time it happens, this is what you do. Is he mine? Yes. I found him on a bus right in the middle. Is he mine? Yes. He was part of my government reparations package. They ran out of acres and mules. Or Or, this is my personal favorite. Is he mine? Don't tell. They don't know he's missing. The point is, if you see a black woman with a lighter skinned child, you cannot assume she's the nanny. The only way you can tell is you have to look the woman dead in the eye. Yeah. Nannies look bored. Moms look like they're 1 second away from mine. Yeah. But sometimes people don't just like make assumptions. I don't know if you guys have ever had this experience. People cross lines. Like I had a show, and this, no joke, I remember so vividly. This woman came up to me afterwards and she said, "Is it really true that your wife is a Negro?" So, you can't say that anymore. And she just kept going. So, because if it's true, I have a funny story for you about Negroes. That's like, that funny story better be that you gave money to the United Negro College Fund. And she said, "I own a store, and a couple of years ago, a Negro came in, and I didn't know whether to be scared or not, because you never can tell with Negroes." I was like, right. You never can tell, right? The guy might want to borrow the rope from the people lynching him, tie you up, and make you watch him not steal shit from you. And look, I am scared of my wife, but it's not because she's black. It's because she's my wife. But you'd be amazed, well, you guys would be amazed, but some people would be amazed about what people have no problem saying out loud. Like when we first told people around the kids, people came up to us and said, "Oh, mixing is bad." Mixing is bad, right? You guys know this, right? Mixing is bad. By the way, these same people, no problem mixing dogs. Yeah, they'll mix a German Shepherd with a Chihuahua just to see what happens. I tell you what, you get a Nazi with a quick Latin temper. Or people would try to say that like and kind of finesse it a little bit. They'd be like, "Oh, aren't you worried your child won't fit in?" Maybe some of you have heard that in your lifetimes, right? You won't fit in, right? Which is the polite way of being racist when you have a college education. Let me tell you, my viewpoint, mixing is not bad, okay? Mixing is not bad. When you mix white guilt and racism with black rage and fear, they sort of cancel each other out, and then all that's left are the best parts underneath. You can clap that one too, or not. No, but so the other thing is, no discussion of racism, since I'm hammering this point now, would be complete without talking about racist jokes. Right? I'm a comedian, which means people feel the need to tell jokes to me. Like they're testing them out. "Oh, you could use this one. What do you think of this one?" Whatever. And sometimes they'll tell me racist jokes, which is a real problem for me. Obviously, because my wife is black. Also, because sometimes they're really funny. And the thing is, I can't laugh. And by the way, neither can you or anyone else for that matter, right? Of course, but the thing is, like, just because I have a black wife doesn't mean I'm the only one who knows right from wrong, right? And that's how people act. Like, I'm the one who's supposed to have specialized knowledge, right? Let me tell you, you don't need to have a black wife to know right from wrong. If you did, the only way to get a Supreme Court would be marry a black woman. And my favorite part of the whole thing is when they find out that my wife is black. It was, "Oh, you know it." Like, yeah, no, you're a racist, right? It's like either own the joke or apologize, but don't try to live in between. Like, don't pretend you're not a racist when you are. It's really Republican. Just a little political humor. The other thing about racism is it's not a PG movie. I mean, that's what we're here talking about, race, right? You guys are having these panel discussions that you guys have lived the life that I haven't even lived. So you know better than I do. It's not a PG movie. I mean, there can be, harsh language in adult situations, really harsh language, in really adult situations. Because racists are not hobbyists. They don't dabble. They're really committed, like the nerds at Comic-Con, only with hate speech, beatings, and death threats. And from time to time, I've actually been on the receiving end of racism like that. Fortunately, usually it's been like the 21st century kind, which is like really nasty comments on social media, versus the old school variety, where if you were lucky, all they did was beat the crap out of you. But as we all know, cyber racism can be pretty awful. I did a bit one more show, and a guy put on my YouTube channel like the next day. This was a quote, and I'll clean it up for you guys since I don't know whose sensibilities are here. It said, "F your mother, you N-word loving K," which is the epithet for Jewish people. And I'll admit it, like I was really rough. Like I was really shaken up. But I got the last laugh because I get to leave. But you can't delete the real world, right? Live out in the real world, you can't delete that. I did a show, guy comes up to me afterward. Actually, it wasn't even afterwards, it was during the show. That's right, it was during the show. I was talking about being the white dad of a black son, being concerned about that. And a guy yells out, no joke, give him a banana. Right. Now, this was in New York at a comedy club in the 21st century, not at a 19th century minstrel show in Mississippi. Right? So I didn't know what to do. So I just stood there like I'd been electrocuted. And then I just kept going like nothing had happened. Except everything had happened, right? First of all, on a very basic level, a heckler got the best of me, which is never supposed to happen. Right? Like I got a stage on a microphone. If I can't beat the guy with those odds, like I need to quit. But more importantly, I let down my family, right? I mean, this guy all but called my son a monkey, and I didn't do anything about it. Like I didn't curse, I didn't jump off the stage and beat the guy up. I didn't even give him a crotch grab. Like, I got your banana right here. None of it. You know? Of course, neither did anyone in the audience. Not that that's an excuse. But, you know, Hitler didn't take over Germany just because one lone comedian was too much of a coward to say Nazis suck. But I didn't do anything. And I'll be honest, because I was scared. You know, scared that I'd do something I regret, or that would get me into trouble, and really scared of what this guy might do to me. Because I figured anybody who's willing to be that openly racist in public is a person who doesn't give a fuck. And a person who doesn't give a fuck is a person not to mess with. But in the wake of that, I decided I'm not going to let fear control me ever again when it comes to racism. Here. I'm unashamed to say I'm guided by fear when it comes to germs. Also when it comes to going broke. Now the thing is, again, racism is difficult, but, and this may resonate more with you guys, I worry less about racism and more about racial dynamics in our family, you know, for obvious reasons. Like, and now, I'll be honest with you, like right now, my relationship with my son is not about race. It's about, he's 4, and I'm the guy who can't stop freaking out about how to support him. Why is he watching too much TV? Why the fuck won't he eat broccoli, right? But there was a time when our relationship would have been all about race. Right? There was a time within the last 50 years when my son and I would have had to use separate drinking glasses. Right? I can't even imagine that because we use the same separate drinking fountains because we use the same drinking glass now, and he backwashes Elmo cookies in there. Right? He takes food. This is no joke. He takes food from his own mouth and he shoves it into mine, which is gross. I know, but I love it because it proves how close we really are. Now, look, I'm not going to come here and tell you that eating pre-chewed food will end racism, but I will say it's a little hard to hate somebody who will literally give you the food from their own mouth. And separate bathrooms? Like, are you kidding me? My son, every time I go to the bathroom, my son comes with me. Yeah. And there have been times, not recently, he's older now, but earlier, where I had to pee sitting down because he's fascinated by running water. Right? Yeah. Right, the kid's not even 5 yet. He's taken my manhood already by making me feel like a woman. And that's just number 1. I'll spare you the details about number 2, except to tell you guys, since you don't have kids, that little kids mimic everything you do. So he comes at me with the box of wipes. And I'm like, no, I still do that for myself. So yeah, again, segregation is over. But as we know, racial tension is not, right? Right now, my son thinks roughhousing is hilarious, but in a couple of years, he may not think it's so great that an older white guy pushing him around. And I live in dread of that day, right? Because I love my son. I do. I love my son. I don't mind saying that in public. I love him. And I don't want him to be suspicious of me because of race, the way that I, a Jewish guy, get nervous around German people. I mean, look, I know the Holocaust was 70 years ago. I know I wasn't alive when it happened. But I hear people speaking German, and I start, and I don't care if it's a family of vegans wearing Mickey Mouse t-shirts and fanny packs. They start with ichs and ichs, and it gets my attention. And I don't want my son feeling like that around me. I don't want him to fear or resent me because I'm white. I want him to fear or resent me because I'm his father. So yes, Right now, we're doing okay. But inevitably, issues of race, and you guys know from your own lives, start to crop up. And how am I going to help him with things like I've never experienced? Like, let's say he has to choose between being black or white, which he almost certainly will have to do, right? Literally choose between mommy and daddy. And by the way, just for the record, I'm okay if he picks mommy. My wife is an all-star parent. If I had to pick, I would pick her too. But he should pick her for the right reasons, right? Because she helps him with his homework and buys him ice cream. Not because daddy looks like the people who enslaved people who look like mom. But even if he doesn't want to, someone's going to make him because, you know, that's the way it is. And that somebody is me. Yeah, because we're struggling financially. So when it's time for him to go to college and that financial aid form comes, I'll be like, you check that box marked black. And I know that sounds awful, but look, life is tough and you got to use what you got. So if being biracial means that my son, who right now is lighter skinned than I am, can get scholarships for African Americans, then he's getting those scholarships. Yeah, because doing stuff on your own merits is great, but turning out free money is really stupid. But even if I don't make it true, somebody will, because in America, we want everything in a nice, neat box, right? Black guy uses the N-word, people are like, that's your word, you're free to use it. White guy uses the N-word, fight breaks out. Biracial guy uses the N-word, people are like, we gotta go to the videotape. So I don't know how to help myself with this one. Like if it were me, my life, I don't know that this is true, but I like to think that maybe I would say black because I want to show the pride that part of my heritage that was oppressed and overcame. And that's partly why I'm so proud of being Jewish. Right? Get those gone, I'm still here. Thank you very much. But my son may feel differently. You know, when he gets older, he may grow up and say, you know what? I'm going to choose white. Because when I get cold, I just want to put on a hoodie and not get shot. Speaking of which, what happens when he comes to me and says, Dad, I need to have the conversation about the cops? I'm a short, nervous Jewish man from Long Island. I love the cops. I want the cops to follow me around like a Secret Service detail. Right? So I don't have to tell him about this one. I think the best I can come up with is, look, son, cops have guns. So treat them the way you treat anybody else who will blow a giant hole in your chest. Right? We'll worry about your civil rights later. Just come home for dinner. Or what happens when someone calls them the N-word, right? Which is almost inevitable, right? How do I help with a word I'm not even allowed to think, much less say? Besides, no one's ever said anything close to that to my face, right? Worst thing anyone's ever said to my face was, you're Jewish? Jews are smart and they work hard and they make money. Okay. Take that back. So I'm worried that I'll overreact. And I'll go to the guy's house and I'll bang on his door. Mr. Johnson, come out here right now. Your son called my son the N-word. Door opens. It's a black dude. It's like, yeah, fool, they're friends. He's his man, his dog, his N-word. I'm like, oh, can I use your bathroom? Be like, yeah, the one for the whites is out back. Right? Or what happens when my son learned the history of the country, of this country? He says, Dad, am I your slave? And I'm like, no, of course not. He'll say, wait a second. I live in your house. I do chores for which I'm not paid. If I disobey you, I could get hit. How am I not your slave? I'm like, well, because when you're a teenager, if you run away, I may not come looking for you. What if he says, Dad, I need some advice on how to be a strong black man? I'm not even a strong white man. I'm 5'4", 140 pounds, okay? I'm the size of the average American woman. Like, I'm so short, I've never seen a parade live. But strong, we're talking about physical strength there. Strong really means like strength of character, right? You know, like Martin Luther King strong, Nelson Mandela strong. Get out of jail after 27 years, forgive everybody strong. I'm not that strong, right? If I went to jail for 27 years unjustly, when I got out, I wouldn't forgive everybody. I would sue the shit out of them. But I wasn't getting drunk and having sex, right? But Mandela forgives everybody. That's strong. Right? That's Christ-like strength. And I was like, oh, Jesus was black and Jewish, like my son, right? You want advice on how to be a strong black man? What would Jesus do? And remember above all things, Jesus loved his Father. And if you can't remember that part, well, just be like Lenny Kravitz, because he's a strong black Jewish man. He's rich. Some people, not you guys, I suspect, but a lot of people, mostly white people, say I talk about race too much. They're like, you shouldn't see race. And I'll be honest with you, I don't agree with that. I think seeing and judging are different things. Perfect example. My wife took our son to the store, and he's running around, as 4-year-olds tend to do. He stopped in the middle of the store, a shoe store on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, very little place, and he yells out, "My mommy is black!" Whole place goes silent. A room full of white liberals, frozen solid by their own guilt. Mortified that my son is making an issue of race. Except he's not making an issue of race. He's making an observation, right? That his mom and his daddy have different skin colors. Frankly, I'd be more upset if he didn't notice, because it would mean he's blind. Right? Where I did a show, guy came up to me afterwards and he said, "Listen, I got a bone to pick with you. You talk about race too much. When you look at your wife, you shouldn't see color." I was like, okay. But I have eyes and she's black. What am I supposed to do? Wear like night vision goggles and just see the heat generated silhouette? He says, "Well, listen to me. I got an Asian wife. When I look at her, I don't see color. I just see love." I'm like, that's funny. Because when I look at your wife, I see a middle-aged woman who can't believe she's married to a guy who says shit like that. Look, why can't my son say that his mommy is black? Why can't I? There's nothing wrong with being black, right? And there's nothing wrong with saying that a black person is black. It's not racist to say that they're black. It's racist to think that calling them black is racist because it means you're black to the N-word, right? Point is, we're never going to be a colorblind society, ever, right? And we don't want to be, because people will be blowing through traffic lights. No, seriously. If you have sight, if you're a sighted person, you will see color. The trick is you got to be able to see color and not make value judgments. Just the way you can look at tall, good-looking white people and not assume they have it really easy. Well, that's a bad example, but okay. It's kind of depressing, actually, you know, like, because we desperately need to have this conversation about race that we're not having because people are either racist, right, or petrified of being branded as racist, which makes you wonder whether we wouldn't all be better off if everyone had just stayed where the hell they were, right? Like no Columbus and no colonialism, yeah, and no immigration, right? Right? Then we could just hate people for the right reasons, because they're rich. I'm getting the wrap-up signal, which means I have to finish up, which is good because I'm just about finished up. Yeah. Technical crew back there. We'll give them a round of applause when they're done, but I'm done. So yeah, we need to have this conversation about race, but we're not having it. And it's upsetting because my son and people like him, people like a lot of people in this room, are bringing us closer together. But we're not there yet. You know, we're not there yet at all. I don't know what the answer is. I don't know how to look at my son, this beautiful little boy, and tell him there's people in the world who are going to hate him just for what he is. Right? And he has to cope with that. Like, it makes me so angry. Right? Why does he have to change? Why does he have to cope? Why don't they change? Why don't they cope? You know, I don't have the answer to that one. All I can tell him is to be the best person he can be and to understand that in this world is the burden of the best to answer to a higher authority. And I'll also tell him that I'll have his back no matter what. Unless I'm taking a nap, in which case I'll have his back when I wake up. All right, you guys, thank you so very much. I appreciate having me up here. Thank you so much. Good. Oh, thanks. Yeah. I wasn't sure if you know, pregnancy and stuff, but I thought I was doing the whole. Yeah.
So I guess
We are going to take lunch break now, so you can join us back in about an hour. Thanks. We're excited that you guys are watching.
Yeah.